Hello, my name is Martina Jasimowska, and today I'm going to present the Gestalt Principles applied in UX design. A little bit of content on the presentation. We will have an intro of what UX design is and how it's related to Gestalt Principles, and then we're going to go straight to the principles and how they're applied in UX. Specifically the ones that are listed here that are extremely common in the design world. So then here we start off with a question, what is user experience design and how is it related to Gestalt principles? So user experience design is how a person actually feels when they're interacting with the system, product, and I think it's very related to Gestalt principles because they play a large role in making interfaces usable and actually easy to understand by describing how people perceive things visually. Understanding and applying the principles daily enable us as designers to design applications that appear simpler and more organized. Where I work and what I do. I work at CME Group, Chicago Board of Trade company, as you see there. That's our logo. You might have seen it downtown. And then what I do is I'm a user experience analyst. So I do a little bit of research and design on our applications or products or systems, however you want to call them. So how and where we apply Gestalt principles. So the how part will probably, we'll run through in a few minutes all the principles on how that were listed in the intro. And then where we apply Gestalt principles, we start by the design thinking process, and that's this 5-step iterative process, right? We start with discover, define, ideate, prototype, and then we test. So this is a process in the design world and research world where we collect feedback pretty much in every step. And we apply those Gestalt laws or principles pretty much in every step. So I like this quote here. It says, design thinking is an iterative 5-step process which is repeated several times until the optimum solution is found. So that's very true. We're never really done until there's a finalized solution. Some of my daily activities include conducting research in the field. So this, obviously due to COVID, hasn't happened in a long time, which I'm very sad about because it's my favorite part of my role. I think empathizing with the users and to understand their psychological and emotional needs and what is meaningful to them is super important. There's multiple different ways of how we do this in field research. We either observe our users interacting with products, or we show them paper prototypes, as this example is displaying here. But really, nowadays we conduct research remotely, so we have them interact with our products by sharing our website. And then sketching, wireframing, and prototyping is pretty much a daily activity. Mostly I spend a lot of time wireframing and doing finalized visual designs here. And then we have Gestalt mottos at work, right? To reduce cognitive load. This is very important. Here we have the first statement that says, don't make our customers think. That comes from Don't Make Me Think, a very great book by Steve Krug. It's about human-computer interaction and the web usability. And then we have pay attention to what users do and not really what they say. So in the field, when we're observing them, we really have to pay attention to what they're saying. But also what they're doing is the most important. So that's kind of reminds me of the task we had in class to describe on how we're picking up a pen. So it reminded me of that. It was kind of cool. Then we have align interfaces to our customer expectations. That's a given. Making interactive elements stand out, right? So a lot of affordance there. Make important controls obvious. and stick to established design conventions and patterns that we actually have and that is used through any website, not just at CME Group. Don't leave our customers guessing, and then use affordance wisely. So now we're going to go straight to the similarity, which is pretty much similarity and proximity, I think, are the most common ones we use. So similar objects are seen as a group. As we have in this example, we have the blue and the green, and even though they're different shapes, they're still, similar due to their color. So the way we are using similarity in UX, I'm going to give you some examples with our icons, navigations, links, and headers on our cmegroup.com website. So here I am displaying the icons that we have, right? These icons are similar in shape and size, and they actually represent the same function. So they're all, if I click on them, they're all going to take me to a different website. So it's pretty clear that they are similar. And then we have the capitalized white links, and then we also have them down here. So that means they're also similar. They are doing the same function. Just to give you a little perspective. So here's our website landing page, and here are the links. And when you hover over them, they have a little bit of affordance. They actually give you feedback, and that's great. You know that they're clickable, and so once you click on them, they all kind of act the same way and present this pop-up, right? So here we have a, I guess I would say, figure and the ground type of display, where this is the figure and this is the ground, right? And then we have, let's see, our next one would be, the headers, right? So we also have headers that are yellow. We also saw this right here. So these are our products, and these are categorized in a different group. So they're not clickable, but they're all capitalized and in the same color. So they're pretty much representing the same thing, just in a different group. Then we're going to jump straight to proximity. So elements arranged close to each other are perceived as more related than those placed further apart. So within UX, I think we can use proximity principle for grouping similar information, organizing content, and actually decluttering layouts. As the principle states, items that are related should stay close to each other, while the unrelated items should stay further apart. And I think white spaces play a vital role, as there's like contrast guiding the user's eye in the intended direction. So proximity in UX examples are tiles, cards, comment, headings. So for this, I've included this our products and the way that they're displayed. So we have agriculture products, energy, and equities. And you could tell that they're all products, but however, they're categorized in different groups, right? So in this example, the tiles that are closer together appear to be more related than the tiles that are spaced apart. Our three different products are arranged close enough to be viewed as one group. So the products are arranged with proper amount of space, and they're pretty much seen as three small groups, and together form a big group. Then we have the cards, right? So this is our blog post. They represent them in the cards view. And they're grouped together according to their distance from one another. So they're, represent the same thing, different blog post, but, grouped in their own different category. And then we have the cards view here. This is our blog, common headings. Proximity is also an excellent way to organize hierarchical elements. In this example, our different markets are grouped together in common headings, creating relationships, which what makes scanning and finding information much easier, right? So these are products or different markets, and they're kind of divided into different groups. Next, we have common region. Elements placed within the same region are perceived as grouped. So this is similar to the proximity principle. It's kind of I think it's particularly useful. It can help with information grouping and content organization, but I think it could also achieve content separation or act as a focal point. So common region in UX, I have this example in cards in our website, particularly in this one, where this is actually a website, an external one that I'm working on currently. I think it's well defined by, having this rectangular space with different bits of information presented as one. And these are all our services. They're all, different, but they're all services. So, and then we have the tiles. In this example, we see our about CME group tiles that share an area with a clearly defined boundary. So in design, we are often using tiles to group coherent elements. So this one is representing everything about CME, but in different categories based on what the topic is. Next, we have continuation. So for this one, elements arranged in a line or a soft curve are perceived to be more related than those arranged randomly or in a harsh line, right? So continuation principle is guided to move from one object to another. So we speak about the law of continuity when we, perceive things to be arranged in lines or curves. And I think within UX, elements following a continuous line are perceived as a group. So I think continuity helps us interpret direction and movement through a composition. So it takes place when aligning elements, and it can help our eyes move smoothly through pages. I think it's, it kind of guides us from one thing to the other. So let's look at some examples. I have highlighted links, carousels, and wizard steps. So within our, what we saw before, highlighted links is the example of continuity when it occurs when we're guided to move from one object to another, which here, if we click on our links, we are guided to move back and forth, right? And same with this. So if we click this, that also gets highlighted blue, and then we click this, and we have an arrow kind of pointing us to the next thing. Then we have carousel cards, right? This is displaying half of the card, and so it's a classic example of continuity in the design world. So once we hover, we get this arrow as well. So not only do we have this half card letting us know that there's continuity, but also the arrow helps us through. And then the last piece I have as an example is a wizard step. So we have this 1, 2, 3 step process. We call this a wizard when we fill out forms at work. So the blue arrow pointing to the right represents the number of steps the user has to complete the form. So step 1 moves to the right when it's completed, and step 2 now becomes blue and lets the customer understand that step 1 is completed. So when all steps become blue, the customer understands their process will be complete. Okay, and then next is the figure and the ground. So the separation between figure and ground. So I think things get pretty interesting when designers create compositions that cause our brains to flip back and forth between the figure and ground. Especially in this example, the figure is a vase and the ground contains 2 faces, but For me, I usually see this as the opposite experience. I usually see the faces as the figure. It's really, really interesting. I don't know why, but it just happens. So, figuring and frowned, I noticed here, great. Elements are seen as either figures or ground. So this example, it's very common in modals within the web design world. So right here we have this modal that is warning us on an action that we try to delete. So if we click on this delete icon, we would get this modal, and basically what would happen is we use this technique of where it's like an overlay. It's a little transparent, so the background becomes less prominent, and so this would become, the modal becomes the figure, and the ground is this background. So in conclusion, I feel that from the very first brainstorming session and planning content to beginning of the creative direction, designers should be thinking about these principles, because they will impact the design and actually change ideas about how elements should be grouped or placed in the design. And what I'm stating here is psychological principles help designers follow a user-centered design. Understanding how the human mind works is a great tool to create designs which directs users' attention to the right place. Very true. And I feel that it's important for designers to understand and apply the Gestalt principles when they tackle design projects in order to improve the product's interactions and help users limit frustrations. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.